I think you've all heard of the Brothers Grimm. You know, they wrote stories like Cinderella and Little Red Riding Hood and Hansel and Gretel, but they also wrote some stories you may not have heard of, like the Bearskinner. Today I'm going to tell you the Bearskinner, which was retold by Amy Schlitz. Now I'm going to tell you it the way I think it should be told. The bearskinner didn't start out as a bearskinner. He started out as a soldier, and he was good at it. He was one of the best shots in the army. He was a good tracker. He was a good hand-to-hand combat person. He was kind of good at most of it, but there was a problem. The war he was fighting in ended, and when the war ended, there wasn't any more need for a soldier. So the soldier was dismissed and had to find some other way to make a living. He didn't have any other skills, though, and so he went home to his brothers, his parents had died, and asked his brothers, please, could they give him a job and help him until he had more skills and could get a job on his own. But those brothers of his did not want to help, and they sent him away to make a living the best he could. Well, the soldier did try. He asked here and there, tried to find somebody to give him a job, but without any skills, he wasn't having any luck. One night, hungry, wandering through a forest with nothing to eat again, it was starting to get late, and the bearskinner stopped for the night, when suddenly a man appeared. Now, this man, wearing a long green coat, just seemed to materialize out of nowhere, and the bearskinner wouldn't have known anything was strange except he got a glimpse of the bearskinner's feet, which weren't feet at all. Instead, they were goat's hooves, and because of those goat's hooves, the soldier knew that he was talking with the devil. The devil looked at him and said, I can see you're in a problem. You don't have any food, you don't have any way to make a living, and you're going to starve to death pretty soon if you don't change something. I have a deal to make with you. Now the soldier looked at the devil and thought to himself, I know it's risky to make a deal with the devil, but I'm kind of hungry, and I don't see any way of getting a job. So he asked the devil, what's the deal that you want to make? And the devil said, first I need to see if you are courageous. And suddenly there was a crashing in the bushes behind them, and the bearskinner turned around, and there was a ferocious bear coming through the bushes, and he whipped out his gun and he shot the bear straight through the eyes, and it fell down dead. The devil said, I can see you're brave, so maybe you'll be able to handle this bargain. And then the devil explained that for 7 years, the bearskinner would have to put on the cloak of the bear, wear its skin. For 7 years, he wasn't allowed to wash any hair. He wasn't allowed to cut any hair. He wasn't allowed to cut his fingernails or claws, as they would turn into. And he wasn't allowed to pray to God for help. The soldier thought about it for a few minutes. It was a risky proposition. 7 years is a very long time. But then the devil added one thing. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. For the 7 years, you will have as much money as you can spend. Well, he was pretty hungry. He didn't have a job, so the bearskinner agreed to the deal. And immediately, the bearskin from the dead bear he just shot was taken from the bear and put on the man. And the soldier learned what it was like to look like an animal. He still had the face of a man, but he wore that thick bear skin over his whole body, and he had the bear's claws. And so for the first year after he turned into the bearskinner, he would go to a hotel, and because he had money in his pocket, he was allowed to stay. The bearskinner was able to get a comfortable room at night, plenty of food to eat. He was even able to convince people to keep him company and talk with him. But by the second year, he was getting pretty disgusting. His bear fur was thick and matted, and because he wasn't allowed to bathe or cut it, he started to look really gross. And so the innkeepers and the hotel men and the restaurant owners didn't want him to come anymore into their businesses. Sometimes they would let him eat outside with the animals, but no more did he have a comfortable bed to sleep in. In the third year, things were really bad. He looked hideous. Nobody would talk to him. People would hide when they saw him coming. And so, one night, the Bearskinner found himself on a bridge, deciding if he was going to kill himself. But before he did, he noticed a woman and her baby. They were poor, so poor. And the Bearskinner remembered all that money in his pocket, and he took out a handful of coins, and he said to the woman, "Here, these are for you." But the woman was too afraid to come get them, so he threw them to her. The woman picked up all those coins and yelled to the Bearskinner, "Thank you, sir. I will pray for you." And suddenly the Bearskinner had an idea. He could use his money to help the poor people. And the poor people could pray for him since he wasn't allowed to do it himself. So for the next year, the Bearskinner went around helping the poor people. He paid debts. He bought food. He cleared loans. And one day, he helped a man in prison by paying his debts. And the man was so grateful, he said to the Bearskinner, "I will give you one of my 3 daughters to marry." And the Bearskinner said, "No, that's not fair to your daughters." But the man insisted. And so the Bearskinner went home with the man where he met the 3 daughters, all of whom were very beautiful. But the eldest said, "Father, he is so ugly. I'm not marrying him." And the middle daughter said, "Oh, Father, he is so poor. I can't live with a poor man." And the youngest daughter looked at him, and she too thought he was pretty ugly, and he definitely smelled very bad. But she said, "Father, I will keep your promise. I will marry him." And so the Bearskinner gave her a golden ring, and he broke it in half, and he kept one half, gave her the other one, and said, "I'll come back at the end of my 7th year, but if I don't come back, you are free to go." And the Bearskinner lasted. Each year was harder and worse than the last, but he made it to the end of the 7th year. And then he went back to the forest, and the devil kept his promise. He was turned back into a man, and his pockets were full of gold. And he went and he got a bath, and he cut his nails, and he brushed his hair and had a haircut, and he was so handsome. And he bought a new car, and he took the car, and he went to the poor man's house, where his daughters saw him coming. And the 3 daughters were so excited, but the 2 oldest, oh, they thought he was so cute, and he was obviously wealthy. Look at his rich clothing and his brand new car. And they hoped he would marry them. But he came in, and he took half of the golden ring out of his pocket. And the youngest daughter saw it, and she took the other half of the golden ring out of her pocket, and the 2 went together. And so the Bearskinner, who was now a man, was married and lived happily ever after.